Welcome to the Wikihospitals podcast series, where people creating new and innovative ways to solve healthcare's most pressing problems are interviewed. The more you know, the better choices you can make. Enjoy the show. Steve Snow, welcome to Wikihospitals.
Thanks, Delia.
Now, Steve, you're co-founder of Praxhub, a platform for doctors to share educational information and to network. Can you tell us a little bit about your company?
Praxhub was a company which was founded in 2014, and after several prototypes, we've launched a online platform which is across web and mobile applications, which allows Australian and New Zealand medical doctors and students to connect with one another for the purposes of accessing CPD education, other industry information, and accessing referrals.
What's your background? Are you a technical person? Have you worked in business? What's your work history?
I took a fairly non-linear path into the work that we're doing now. Originally, I started off as a lawyer. I really got my grounding when I was working for a major pharmaceutical company. So I started to learn the trade of healthcare law. And it was really as a part of doing that practice that we started to see disconnection within the market. So that really set myself and my co-founder, Rob Beveridge, on a path to look at ways in which we could solve the issues of fragmentation using the constructs of internet and technology to be able to bring the medical community closer together.
Are you an entrepreneurial person? Are you a conservative lawyer person? Who's the Steve Snow?
Well, if I had asked myself that question about 10 years ago, while I was practicing, I probably would have called myself a relatively conservative person. I don't think that that's significantly changed. I don't think I've changed my stripes overnight, but I've always had interest in the way organisations come together, and through my practice I've had an interest in health. So I think it's really combining those two that have got me to a position where I am today as a co-founder of a business. It's probably the combination of those things.
So you've got a conservative background, but you also like to see problems fixed.
Look, I would like to say that I am an absolute risk taker, but that would not be true. I think I take a fairly calculated view on things. As probably part of my background and training is that I like to fully understand problems and issues before taking action. Where I do see a strength is being able to identify opportunities and to act on those. This is a market in which there's a lot of opportunities to provide better systems and better outcomes for the doctors that we work with in order to allow doctors to connect and access information.
What was your first main exposure to the health industry? As a patient? As a relative?
I guess my real exposure to it came even as a kid. It was actually my dad, who worked for pharmaceutical companies really his entire life, and more so on the manufacturing side. It's always been a language and an industry which has been familiar to me. So when I was practicing as a lawyer 10 or so years ago, I didn't start in health. I actually started in banking and finance. And it was from banking and finance I then went into health for a pharmaceutical company. My dad always thought that I was following in his footsteps.
Can you explain to us what Praxhub actually does from the user's point of view, what they get out of it when they log in?
Praxhub is an online platform for Australian and New Zealand doctors and medical students in which they log into the system through either a web-based application or a mobile application. They require a registered identifier number in order to join, so in Australia an APRA number or the equivalent in New Zealand. And from there they are able to create a very medically specific profile. And that's really important because if you are a specialist who is looking to connect with or have referred patients to them, so that a GP could look up a plastic surgeon who has a particular special interest in an area of, say, reconstructive surgery. So it makes that ability to be able to find other doctors with the level of specificity that doesn't exist on other platforms a lot easier. Equally, doctors can access other information such as CPD accredited education. Industry has a desire to provide information to doctors, such as hospitals, professional services, so doctors can access that information as well. And finally, there's collaboration. Doctors within specialties and across specialties are often looking to collaborate on areas of medicine. So it provides a platform which they can easily do that, either a web-based application or on their mobile, so that they can collaborate in small groups.
You've mentioned to me before that a senior doctor could take a little video of an assessment of a patient and upload that to your platform so other doctors can have a look at it, so there can be information shared among doctors. Is that the case?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So we have doctors on the platform who are supporting other doctors within either their specialty or across specialties by recording certain procedures which they do, of course with the consent of the patient, and then they upload those to the platform to make those available to other doctors. Because particularly for some junior doctors, that they don't always get the opportunity to see the techniques and procedures done by the consultants or those who are more senior to them. There's not always the opportunity to learn in a convenient way. The consultants have been, in some instances, uploading educational, instructional videos to the platform to help other junior doctors within their area of specialty.
Well, that sounds great, because I know that junior doctors do need a lot more hands-on assistance, same with nurses. So if people can go out there in the field as a senior clinician and actually videotape what they're doing with their phone and explain why they're doing it, and then upload it to a platform, that's fantastic, because that means other people can learn from that.
We're trying to connect the medical industry in a way which is convenient and efficient for them. It's not always easy for some of the junior doctors to get access to the consultants because, doctors are very busy by nature. Being able to do that in a way which is asynchronous, in other words, the junior doctor doesn't need to be there at the time at which the video was created, but they can access it at a time which is convenient for them.
But Steve, what are the pain points that Praxhub addresses in the industry?
Praxhub is looking to address the issues of fragmentation in the market. And so by fragmentation, we mean that the medical industry has over 100 recognised areas or specialties of medicine. And what that tends to result in is that the industry becomes very siloed, and as a consequence of that, then quite disconnected, which then becomes very hard for areas of cross-collaboration. It also becomes harder for GPs to be able to refer onto specialists as a result of there being so many areas of specialisation within medicine. So what we're looking to do is solve the areas of disconnection and to bring the industry together, to make it easier for those referrals to take place, for collaboration to occur across specialties and within specialties, and also to access CPD accredited education in a way that's convenient for them.
I would imagine with doctors they have a big need for privacy of both their patients' information and to have some sort of professional protection. So this platform is sealed off, so you can only access information if you are a doctor.
Yeah, that's correct. So a doctor needs to provide their medical registration number, which is a validated number, in order to access the system. And on that basis, the community is protected from eyes from the outside world. And that's really important for many doctors in terms of having those open conversations, sharing information. It could be images, obviously subject to the privacy issues of dealing with their patients, but doing that in an environment which is only accessible by those within their own industry.
What sort of technology do you use on Praxhub?
So it's a web-based application and a mobile application. And it's fundamentally underpinned by the relevance of information and connections. So by that we mean doctors are presented with so much information that they can access. What we're trying to do is make that information very specific and relevant to those doctors who access the platform. And in order to do that, we use artificial intelligence algorithms in order to be able to make the content which then gets directed to those doctors more specific and more relevant. AI is becoming very common in many industries as a way of being able to use information in order to make things more efficient and more effective for an audience. What we want is for doctors to be able to come into the platform and have a good user experience. If they're going to be recommended to connect with other doctors, the doctors which they're being recommended is relevant and specific to them.
So, Steve, what's been your customers' feedback? What have the doctors who've logged on and used the platform have to say about it?
As I said, we have gone through a couple of prototypes and we launched the technology that we have now into the market at the start of the year. And the feedback that we've received so far has been positive. We do our best to understand through site statistics that we get, and obviously working offline with doctors as well, is the platform and is the technology delivering the best experience for those doctors? And that will always be evolving for us.
Where do you see your company in 5 years' time? I mean, are you branching out to other countries?
We're looking to make Praxhub a regional hub that connects the medical industry. And we are currently in Australia and New Zealand, and we are getting the feedback from doctors to improve where we can, so that when we do launch into other countries, we're looking to maintain the success of the platform within the countries where we had originally launched, but also make it applicable and relevant to the countries in which we're seeking to launch.
And are you reaching out to other countries, like in the Asia-Pacific region?
Yeah, so we have been doing some work in the Asian region already. The platform isn't available yet in those markets, but there's certainly strong levels of interest for Praxhub as a solution in those markets.
It sounds a bit like a LinkedIn or a Facebook-style social networking for doctors. Is that the case?
No, we actually like to differentiate ourselves on that basis. We don't see ourselves as competing against LinkedIn or Facebook. There are elements of those platforms which have obviously proven very successful in terms of aggregating information, but our platform has very specific functionality to the industry in which we're working. The way in which doctors are profiled, are connected to one another, the ways in which they can access CPD accredited information is not available on any of those other platforms you mentioned.
Is there a doctor involved in your company who gives advice or feedback about how useful and practical this is?
Yeah, so we have a medical advisory board, which is made up of 2 specialists and a general practitioner. And we're looking to very soon have a medical student to join our advisory board, who provide us with guidance, feedback and direction. We're always continuing to ensure that the platform is developing and evolving in such a way which is relevant for our market.
Well, Steve, thank you very much for your time speaking to Wikihospitals. This is a unique Australian platform. For the listeners, check out Praxhub and let us know how you go.
Thanks, Delia.
Thank you for listening to our Wikihospitals podcast. Make sure you don't miss out on new interviews by subscribing to our show on SoundCloud and iTunes. Check out the Wikihospitals website, health startups sorted by medical specialty, and the behind-the-scenes look at healthcare. Don't forget to share on social media and help us grow. See you again soon.